get-go. We'll do the introductions. We'll mention that the World Cup happened over the weekend and that Italy won, and then we'll roll right into the spoilers that they officially announced over the weekend, and then some of the ones they didn't officially announce. And yeah, Shaheen, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you had to say about cards like Kozilek.
Kozilek. Yeah, let me get all my. I want to get the exact text on these things right now. Let me go on my spoiler page.
Yeah,
I've been so focused on the current stuff that's going on that I have had no chance to even enjoy. Some people say there's some sweet Commander stuff that's coming out too, and all the lands that are going to be printed. I just haven't got a chance to look at any of it. So
yeah, and then
I got Kozilek right here. I mean, Sphinx of the Final Word is pretty cool. I saw that one.
Yeah.
All right, so I got Kozilek here. Let's see.
And when we go over each card, we'll read them, the full text on the cards, too.
I actually love Chandra, too.
Oh, yeah. I saw her and was like, ooh.
Control win condition.
That's what I said, too. Yeah, I'm like, that's basically like a Jeskai control shell, maybe.
It draws cards, it creates win conditions, and it protects itself. You know, it follows the steps for being a control planeswalker.
Yep. And then we'll kind of go into a Control 101 for newer players because basically our target audience is kind of guys that play at their LGSs and not so much on the Grand Prix scale, you know, F&M grinders, as they call them sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm playing F&M this week. I'm one of the few people, I would say one of the few people in my circle that still plays at the most casual levels all the way through to what I do now, so...
Nice.
I definitely have perspective on that, too.
Sweet. I think we're pretty much ready. Does anybody else have anything to say before we actually start the recording?
Ready to go.
All right. Then give me another few seconds. Let me just verify we're still recording. I hate this software. All right. Looks pretty good. Okay. Still going. All right. Give me about another 15, 20 seconds, and I'll roll right into it. And we're back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Higher Standards Podcast. This is episode 53. I am Mr. Jason Roscom. With me each and every week are Chad.
Hey, guys.
And Bob.
Still upset that Chad's here.
Oh.
Sorry. And in addition to those two, we have got a very special guest with us this week. He is the king of Esper. He is a fantastic Magic player. I know we've talked about him a lot on this show. A lot of us have played some of his decks over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, Shaheen Soorani. Welcome, Shaheen.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw a little fun fact right out there from the get-go. You're actually the reason why I have a Twitter account right now.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I was following you a couple years ago. I was reading your articles on Star City, and then you had posted something on Facebook saying the most recent updates to an Esper list you were playing at the time are going to go off on your Twitter page. So I got onto Twitter. I'm like, okay, I guess I need to create an account now. And you're one of only two pro-level Magic players that I follow, you and Jim Davis. So
there we go. And that's a wide range right there, actually.
Yeah.
Jim and I definitely play different strategies there. He's known for the goblins for a long time in Legacy, and he would get teased because, you know, he's playing the quote unplayable deck in the format as I played quote the unplayable decks in the format. So
right.
It's funny, yeah. Actually, Twitter, I was forced to get it too. Actually, when I started writing, once Evan took over for Star City, he decided to say, he's like, why don't you have a Twitter account? Like, what year is this? And I'm like, all right, fine.
I can't do it, man. Like, I'm like, why? I don't know that I want anybody to know what I'm doing at any hour of the day. Like, why does anybody even care?
Well, eventually, you know, after you win a Grand Prix, you know, with crazy deck, everyone's going to care.
Yeah.
Or like me, if you're just, you know, old and you've been around for a while, never won a Grand Prix, then people will start. There's lots of roads to people caring about your Twitter there.
Yeah. Because you don't have to tell everybody when you're going to the bathroom, when you're going to the grocery store. It's all up to you.
I'll remember that.
So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Shaheen's with us for at least hopefully an hour or so. So we're going to hop right into it. Had a lot of stuff going on over the weekend. The first big thing was the Magic World Cup, which we're not going to delve into deck lists or anything, but Italy won the whole event. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Italy won. They did a very awkward standard rotation. You can only have 4 cards between 3 decks, and it was 3 players per country, so it was very awkward. That's the reason we're not going to go really into it, because it kind of diverts from the meta that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's all very different from what you're going to see at any actual standard tournament. It's because it's team.
I'm happy to see Scotland is in the top 7.
Yes.
That's good. That warms my heart a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess the U.S. team was eliminated in day 1. Is that right? I saw somebody mention that on Twitter today or earlier.
That's rough.
Now, it makes me wonder if people represent their land that they are from, even though they play in the U.S.
I would imagine. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, wow, Germany's not on here. I guess Kai Buda didn't play in this. Yeah, in any event. So we have spoilers, Jason.
Yes, because that was the big thing that came during the World Cup. Is they officially announced some of the spoilers that we've been seeing for a few weeks now for Oath of the Gatewatch, and of course the big one, Big Daddy himself, Kozilek the Great Distortion.
Maybe we should talk before we even hit the spoilers. Maybe we should talk about the mana real quick, because I know we talked about it on the show before.
Yeah, but it wasn't set in stone at that point, like how the mana worked.
Yeah. So for people who aren't kind of aware, haven't been keeping up, basically the way the Diamond or Eldrazi mana works is it's any card that will tap for colorless mana will now tap for those Eldrazi symbols.
Yes, that's now colorless. The Diamond is now the representation of colorless mana.
But it is not generic mana. So in an essence, it is a 6 color, I suppose you could say. I think there's some writers on Star City, Shaheen, that would shoot me in the face for saying that, but that's okay. Or just be really upset that it even exists at all. What's your feeling on it, Shaheen, as far as like the way they're going about this?
I think it's fine. They've been for a while, especially early on. People rant and rave like whenever they do anything different, and they're always right, we're always wrong when it comes to game design, and that's why they get paid the big bucks, and that's why we're the fans of them.
Yeah.
And to think that we could do it better is a little bit ambitious. It doesn't say that they don't make mistakes sometimes when they print cards, but as far as like when they removed damage from the stack, I was moaning and groaning. I was like, "Oh my god, you're gonna let all these casual players beat me from now on," and all this, and everybody. It's just no one's ever happy with changes universally. There's always going to be some people that don't like any shift. The only shift I dislike in a similar fashion from all the stuff that Wizards done is when they eliminated the DCI rating levels to get to the Pro Tour,
right.
Which pretty much might as well have been reworded. Delete all 30-year-old plus players that have been playing for a while from Pro Tour scenes, because that's what it pretty much did. Because we grinded pretty hard to get there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And at one point, I was number 1 in composite, right under right above LSV in the world, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then once I went, and that was it. But yeah, like the colorless mana is just another peg in the R&D wheel here. They're just gonna see how this goes. I think it's gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to see what the further implications are going to be. It's kind of like, so I'm still waiting on the Void. Don't know if that's just going to remain as a limited thing, but in Standard it really hasn't had an impact, and I'm just hoping that there'll be something that gives Fathom Feeder and other things a boost with their design there.
Yeah.
As a kind of a funny story, like I played Tron over at GP Pitching like a couple of weeks ago, and I had a crumble to dust in my board, and I boarded it in on a mirror, and I Ancient Stirrings. Then I'm like, holy crap, I can find this! Like, oh my god, wait a minute, I totally forgot I could do this. Like,
there are little things that can happen. I mean, I've had like playing against this mono green Eldrazi guy in the finals in St. Man a little while ago. He played Ugin and minused it, and it didn't kill Fathom Feeder. So I mean, it's not like it's not useless.
Yeah.
It's definitely still has a lot of room for improvement to be impactful.
Sure.
And with this colorless mana, colorless creatures, maybe there'll be some cool thing that'll help you boost the colorless part of your deck choice there.
Yeah, and of course, when we see the first 2 sets of the cons block rotate out, that'll open up a whole new door, hopefully. But, Shaheen, I want to get your opinions on Kozilek, because we've talked about him in previous weeks because he was leaked a while back now. But I'm going to read the whole card again and see what you think. So he's 8 generic mana, colorless. He is a legendary creature Eldrazi. When you cast Kozilek the Great Distortion, if you have fewer than 7 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. He also has Menace, and he also has the activated ability of discard a card with converted mana cost X, counter target spell with converted mana cost X, and he is a 12/12.
I think he has a home in the Eldrazi green decks, but I think that's where he'll rest in Standard.
Yeah.
He has a little more variance in him than Ulamog does. I think Ulamog is still a little better.
Right.
Drawing a lot of cards is pretty sweet. And sometimes, the dream, of course, you draw like 5 or 6 cards after you've exhausted your resources. But, sometimes when you cast a card, you need immediate board impact.
Yep.
That's why Ulamog's so strong against the non-control decks. I mean, this card, obviously, if they play against a control deck, we're just dead. There's been lots of cards in the history of Magic and Standard that have just been control killers and no one's played.
Yeah.
It reminds me of... not Miss Hollow Griffin, but the last one, the Torn Elemental. That card is literally unbeatable for a control player. Cannot win, cannot beat one of them. I had someone at 8-man played it against me. I was like, what is this card? It's getting destroyed. And for those listening are not familiar with it, it's like a 5-mana, 3/5 flyer that I think you can cast it from exile, or when it's so you can cast it just like the Miss Hollow Griffin, and then it has an ability where it can tap all flying creatures your opponent controls. But anyway, it's basically like a continuous 3/5 flyer, which is just an unbeatable card.
Yeah.
This card is another 10-mana card. It's cool. I wouldn't hold your breath when it comes to being a big player in Standard, but it definitely is going to be a problem for control decks that are trying to hedge the green match, which is already pretty rough, and forcing us to play Infinite Obliteration. So might have to kick up the Infinite Obliteration count to battle it. So.
Okay, fair enough. And in addition to that, Crush of Tentacles was also an official spoiler, right?
Yeah. That was an official one.
Yeah, so we had Crush of Tentacles spoiled, and this is a blue sorcery. It's 4 blue. It has a new ability called Surge, which it's an alternate cost that you may pay for the spell if you or a teammate have already cast another spell this turn. And Crush of Tentacles reads, return all non-land permanents to their owner's hand. If Crush of Tentacles Surge cost was paid, put an 8/8 blue octopus creature token onto the battlefield.
This is amazing for you and I, Jason.
Yeah.
Shaheen, Jason and I always play the two-headed giant, and this card, I'm loving Surge already.
Oh yeah, I mean, my first team experiences was a pro tour in San Diego. I teamed with, I don't know how old you guys are, but his name was Chris McDaniel. They call him the Star Wars Kid. He's a Virginia player. Yeah, he has a pretty much old pro player card back in the day when they created pro player cards. But him and I teamed together, and in that pro tour it was Storm. So it was two-headed giant draft at the pro tour. And we would take every Storm card you could possibly see, because you play spell, then you cast a Storm card, and there's one that was a 6-mana destroy target land card with Storm on it. So we would just cast spell, then boom, and it's pretty dirty. But this reminds me of that. I love two-headed giant. I play them every time the free release comes around. I play this event, and this is a card that's real good in that format. Another card that probably won't see any play in competitive Magic, but the art's cool, flavor's cool. I actually played one of the states tournaments I did pretty well, and back in the day I played a Lorthos in my deck because that card was cool. It's another 8-mana sweet.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah. That attacks you, you're dead. So I mean, it kind of feels like, I think it may be the tentacles of it. Maybe we might see a Lorthos in this set. Maybe.
Okay.
There you go. That's a thought. So then, you want to just start with the Planeswalkers, Jason?
Yeah, so in addition to the official spoilers we got over the weekend, we had some, I'll just say unofficial spoilers. What appears to be, a lot of people think it was a printer that works for Wizards, leaked a whole bunch of cards, and I think it's all of the mythics from the set, or maybe it's one short of all of the mythics.
It seems that way, yeah.
Yeah, they all look pretty legit. Nobody's debunked them online yet, so it's very likely that these are all real, and we're going to treat them as real. So we're going to start with, I think we should start with Chandra, because she's pretty awesome. You want to read her?
Yeah, I got this one. So, Chandra Flamecaller, she is a 4-red Planeswalker. Her +1 ability is put 2 3/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste onto the battlefield, exile them at the beginning of the next end step. Her 0 is friggin' awesome. Discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards +1. And the -X is even cooler. Chandra, the Flamecaller, deals X damage to each creature, and she starts with 4 loyalty. So, Radiant Flames immediately, if you have to. Shaheen, go to town, man.
I like it. Obviously, Standard's going to have to provide me a little more red control for this to be a thing for me. I mean, you already have Radiant Flames, which is pretty good for a sweeper. If anyone listening that knows what I do, that's not enough for me. It's going to need to be really need to add a little more than that. But no, I mean, it has all the tools that a good Planeswalker has. It has a win condition attached to it. It has card advantage attached to it, and then the most important is protecting itself or stabilizing the board, which the minus or the X damage to each creature is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Which is about a Radiant Flames. I mean, it's just you preferably don't want to kill your Planeswalker. If you do, then it loses a lot of its oomph there. So it's just all the modes are pretty good. I wish it had a little bit more loyalty. I'm surprised that it's 4. It feels like a card that maybe should have, because it doesn't really have an ultimate.
Yeah.
So they could have easily added more loyalty to make it a little bit better for the price of 6. And I think it may be because of their just continuous hatred of Chandra, because it's the only Planeswalker that gets just the complete, shaft when it comes to.
It's all red Planeswalkers.
I just don't know why they keep doing it. But this one's actually probably one of the better ones, just on face value. Just because of all the versatility it has. So.
Yeah.
Wait! You mean Tybalt wasn't a good Planeswalker?
Negatory.
Yeah, it really feels like Chandra's kind of trying to take the place of the hole that Elspeth left behind.
Yeah.
With the finisher Planeswalker, I don't think she's as good, but I think she could get there. And think about this. Okay, so we're going back to Innistrad in April. And if they bring back, say, Flashback, that could make her even that much better with the 0 ability. And we'll also be done with Siege Rhino, so that'll make her minus even better. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why she doesn't start at 5 is the Siege Rhino factor, because then she could kill just every single creature on the board if she had to.
I mean, it does make sense. You're paying 6 mana probably is the only reason why I would hope, it should be. I think it should be able to deal with a Siege Rhino just because of the mana cost you're investing into it. 6 mana is a lot. I mean, the last one we had was just last standard, wasn't that long ago, a few months ago, with Elspeth, which comes in and immediately stabilizes the board. And Elspeth, even if this came in with 7 loyalty, I think Elspeth's probably still better than this card. Elspeth just did it all. It just the win condition of all win conditions, and mixed into that with stabilization, and then of course the minus, which I think it would have been fine without even that minus ability. Pretty good. So we'll see how it plays out. I think you're going to need. I don't think this fits an aggro shell because it's 6 mana.
Oh yeah, that's way too expensive.
Yeah, way too expensive. So the first ability is definitely not a reach ability. It's more of a continuous win condition ability. So I'm excited. We'll see what it does. It's one of those. It's hard to predict the power of Planeswalkers when they reach a certain mana cost. I was actually commentating with Chapin in one of the SCG live things when Elspeth was spoiled, and that was the easy slam dunk for us. We were like, when the card came out, we were commentating. live, and they put the spoil on the screen. And we're like, oh, that card's gonna be absurd. that was the easy one. That was a no-brainer. This one's not gonna be as cut and dry, so we'll find out.
All right. Moving on, Chad, why don't you take us through Nissa?
All right, the next one was Nissa, voice of Zendikar. She cost one generic green.
Yes.
And she's a Planeswalker Nissa. She has 3 loyalty to start with. Her +1 is put a 0/1 green plant creature token onto the battlefield. Her -2 is put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And her -7 is you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of lands you control. So as soon as I saw this, I saw the 3 mana, and that's great. But to me, this just looks like a worse Ajani, the most recent Ajani.
Yeah. I don't like it, honestly. I mean, I appreciate the fact that she's 3, and I think if she was any more than that, she'd be virtually unplayable. But honestly, she doesn't really do anything immediately. She doesn't. I mean, putting 0/1s into play each turn is all right, I guess. And then the ability to anthem one time with her minus is decent. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not sold on Nissa at all.
I think it's terrible.
Do you?
Yeah.
Now, hold on. Now, is this the Shaheen control player talking, or is this your just honest expert opinion?
I just don't see a green anthem-like ability where it doesn't even put an emblem like Sorin does for 1 more mana, or doesn't really. I mean, on 3, you're not really wanting to play a creature to give yourself an emblem right off the bat, or not an emblem. Excuse me, put ++ counters on your guys. So you're more likely to be putting a plan into play. And then after that, it gets just a little bit murky and weak. So, it's not great. It's not unplayable. I don't think it's gonna. I think it's definitely worse than Chandra when it comes to the chance of it being played in Standard. I was probably steer clear from buying multiple of these.
Yeah, and I agree. Like you mentioned emblem, and I know you said it by mistake, but it brings up a really good point. For 1 more mana, you've got a Gideon who actually puts an emblem down.
Yeah.
I mean, people have talked about this with hardened scales, but I know there's a couple guys at some of our LGSs that'll kill me, but I've never thought that deck was all that great unless you got 1 of 4 cards out on turn 1. So she's great with 1 card that you need to have by turn 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think you're asking for way too much to go right in that case.
Yeah, it's magical Christmas land.
Yep. So moving on to a couple other cards. One I really wanted to talk about that got me pretty excited was Kozilek's Return.
Oh god, this is so good.
So this is an instant. It's 2 generic and a red. It has Devoid, and it reads, Kozilek's Return deals 2 damage to each creature. Okay, it's Pyroclasm. Well, you keep reading. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you may exile Kozilek's Return from your graveyard. If you do, Kozilek's Return deals 5 damage to each creature. I really like this because I've been playing the red-green Eldrazi ramp for a couple of weeks now, or variants of it, so this seems like it would fit right in there. No problem.
This works with Gather the Pack pretty damn well. Just get it right into your yard and then clear the board.
Yep.
I don't know.
And
what do you... Go ahead.
I was going to say, as a red-green Tron player in Modern, this might also be a sideboard possibility.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep.
What do you think, Sheen?
I think it's fine. I think the green decks needed some help with the aggro matchup, and I think this is what this does. So I was definitely going to see some play. I think it's a pretty good design too. I want to see what Cullis does.
Yeah.
It's got to do something. That's what I'm hoping. It's got to do something. Where so far, again, it's just really not doing it.
Yeah, Devoid and Constructed Standard hasn't done all that much.
So Jason,
It's not hard to fix either.
You mentioned red-green ramp, and I think red-green ramp, as we were talking about, Chandra is where Chandra should be, because with this card, you can easily get to the 7 mana with the red-green ramp, but another red-green card that hasn't been getting play a lot is the Elemental.
Oh, Omnath?
Omnath, and
yeah.
She makes 2 Elemental tokens, so...
Oh god, that's true.
Killed doing lightning bolts is pretty good.
Well, what does Omnath read? Because you exile them at the end of turn. Is it when they die or when they leave the battlefield?
I believe it's when they leave the battlefield. I can look it up.
Yeah.
matter. But
So-
regardless, I mean, it's definitely the kind of love, like Shaheen said, that red green kind of needed.
Yeah. So blue and control also got a little bit of love with Sphinx of the Final Word.
So Sphinx of the Final Word is 5. I guess we have to say generic mana now, right?
Yeah.
5 generic, 2 blue, and he's a creature Sphinx. He is a 5/5, and it says first and foremost, it says Sphinx of the Final Word can't be countered. All right, I'm on board already.
Yep.
Flying and hexproof. I'm way on board now. I'm riding this thing. Instant and sorcery spells you control can't be countered by spells or ability. And I'm in.
Yeah.
Shaheen, this is a pretty bad control card, right? You would never want to play this in a control deck, right?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's one of those control cards that everybody's happy with. The aggro players don't care. The control, the mid-range guys, they feel like they can probably get around it eventually.
Yeah.
So it really is it's just good enough to where I think we'll see play, but it's not overwhelmingly broken.
Yeah.
So that's where we really need cards to be anyway.
Yeah, especially while we have Crackling Doom in the format.
Yeah. So I mean, it can still be killed pretty easily by the one of the most popular decks. Control players can't kill it easily, though. The mirror is going to be a whole nother animal if it sees play. I don't know if it's going to see a whole lot of play at the beginning because if it is 7 mana and control already has a lot of dragons that are kind of like have like a monopoly on the win conditions right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that changes. But anyway, right now I'm excited. I've been wanting a solid control finisher for non-dragons for a while, because one of the biggest negatives about playing Esper is the time involved to win, which is very, very long. If you are not adept at control, if you are even just a little bit new at the control game, it could really disenfranchise some new players when they can't finish a match.
Mm-hmm.
No more draws.
No more draws.
Yep. And moving on, we've got a mono black card that's getting a lot of buzz right now.
Kalitas, Trader of Get.
Yeah, Chad, you want to take this?
Yeah, all right. I am not behind this card, but Kalitas, Trader of Get is 2 generic and black. Legendary creature, Vampire Warrior, 3/4 with lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. And for 2 and a black, sacrifice another vampire or zombie. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on Kalitas, Trader of Get. So yeah, I'm not behind this. It's a legendary creature. It doesn't have flying, so the evasion's not there. I really think Liliana is better suited in this position.
The Heretical Healer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you talk about the combo decks that are out there now, the 4-color.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this solves a board wipe problem for sure.
Yeah.
Which Radiant Flames. Well, Radiant Flames doesn't kill this anyway, but not that they have issues with board wipes. They all anytime you board wipe with that deck, it's almost most assuredly that next turn they will recur their entire graveyard.
So you're talking like the Rally the Ancestors decks?
Yeah, 4-color Rally.
Yeah.
But in any event, what do you think, Sheen?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I'm not the most impressed. I mean, the mana cost is good though. It's definitely fair costed, and people have been very wrong in the past about cards that they kind of shrug off, but they're it's only 4 mana and does a lot of stuff. So, well, I guess we're going to have to see how the rest of the tribal stuff pans out, and then we can really have an opinion on it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And unless you guys had any other specific cards you wanted to talk about, we can move on from here. I know we had a couple others spoiled, but nothing's really jumping out as amazing to me right now.
So you don't want to hit the World Breaker?
Not really. I'm honestly not impressed with him.
Yeah, I mean, Sheen, is there anything else on this list? I know you have it open on your computer that you see that really pops out at you as something awesome.
Not yet. I really haven't had a chance to really dig really deep with the spoilers, but at this point, I'm not I'm not really impressed with the cards. Sinks of the Final Word is definitely a card that you should keep an eye on because it's just is very very solid control win condition.
Mhm.
But beside that, it's not the nothing yet. Well, I'm waiting for some comments. I want to see a removal spell to replace Ultimate Price because Ultimate Price is just some kind of bad. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and still waiting.
You just want Doomblade back?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? Go back a few years and just say, be the guy saying, God, Doomblade is just too good.
Yeah.
Who has ever said that? Ever.
It's always been, but it's always been the it dies to Doomblade clause,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. And I mentioned that in my deck tech. I'm like, people don't want to play Threads of Disloyalty because it's like, oh, it dies to Abrupt Decay. Well, so so does everything in your deck.
Yeah.
Of course it does. It's life.
Yep.
What's that comment like, or just in general, dies to removal? And can you find me a card that doesn't die to some piece of removal? If it doesn't die to straight spot removal, it dies to an edict effect or a board wipe. Congratulations!
I'm trying to tell people, I'm like, this is not the make of a card if it dies, or if it can get countered. I'm like, that's what we call life. You try your best, you play some cards. Some things work, some things don't. But it's just a silly thing. Doomblade again. They're not going to ever make a card. I guess it's as streamlined as that. Or they're not going to do one for a long time where you can just kill most cards in the format. But there are other. They can print some new cards. They can do things that are similar, and they really have to because right now there's just nothing. And it shouldn't be the point where Doomblade's too good, but Siege Rhino's okay kind of mentality, where a certain card is just good against every deck in the format, and we can't have a removal spell that kills 75% for or cheap amount of mana. So even Hero's Downfall reprint would have been fine instead of Ruinous Path, but they even took that away from us. So
no, they gave you Ruinous Path. It's the same thing, basically, right?
It is. It definitely feels the same.
Just slower. Speaking, so kind of moving into Doomblade, Ruinous Path, Hero's Downfall. You are known as an Esper control player, but a control player in general. That would be a correct statement, right?
That is very correct. I have embraced the title. I actually have more than I thought after going with talking to Nick Miller and a few others. They always have something new for me. The most recent incarnation being the Esper Professor, which is
okay.
I like that.
I like that one too. That one sounds alright. It's definitely better. It's an upgrade from Expensive Sorcery Master, which actually has a derogatory story behind it of why I'm called that. It's not a good thing.
All right. Well, we'll just leave it at that then.
Yeah.
Well, nothing inappropriate, but as Kai Boo was looking through my deck at a tournament, and there's a few other people there, big shots like Gabriel Nassif, and it was said by a few of the pros, what is this? And it was more of an insult to the CMC of my decks rather than
okay.
promoting my deck building prowess. So,
well, for people who maybe are newer to Control, people who either want to either start playing Control, have played for a while, but kind of don't feel that they're really there with being good at the archetype, and I know that you've done some online tutorials with this and stuff, and taught some classes on it actually, I think, right?
Oh yeah.
And so we're not expecting you to do an entire class on this episode because we got a lot of questions we want to get to, but give us kind of a Control 101. What should people know about playing it for standard generally? I mean, Eternal and that's a whole other ball game. And then also how does one play against it? If you're gonna not play Control, but you're gonna have to play it eventually at any kind of FNM to a Grand Prix. How do you play it? How do you play against it? What's kind of the primer, if you will? We give you easy questions here.
That's a doozy right there.
Tell us everything from the beginning.
Well, playing Control it's like I would say it's very close to chess. You have to really plan out your moves, and if you're just playing by the moment, where you can get away with that with aggro decks and similar strategies, where you're just playing creatures and just killing their things and all that, then you'll be fine with those type of decks, but not with control. You really can't do that. And another precursor to playing control is that you cannot make mistakes. It's not one of those decks where you can just, make a mistake, fetch the wrong land, do things like this. It's much more punishing when you make a mistake with a control deck, because you've pretty much just lost the game. You can't rip that burn spell. You can't rip that. There's no real Wrath of God anymore. It's just a lot harder to get wins these days. But there's this benefit that still looms over, and the benefit is you get to win with flooding, and you get to win with on your terms rather than being at the mercy of the top of your deck. So I guess the first thing you want to do for building a control, or do you want to talk about building, or you want to talk about playing?
Well, let's so talk about building it, and then we'll get into how you actually play whatever it is you're going to build. So when you look at it, like a set rotates out, and new stuff comes in, you have to kind of rework control. You've got new cards not only to play with, but you've got new cards that you have to play against too.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of analyze that?
So when the new set comes out, you want to do, especially if it's before rotation, you want to see what cards are going to still be good. When Revelation, all those are going, the first thing you got to do is just make sure there are what cards are going to survive the rotation, and that's the big thing. And then you start to build strategies and decks around what's going to survive the rotation. So you have a kind of like a core set of cards that you're going to use, and then you build around those. And then you have to check, of course, for the win conditions. Make sure you have everything there. And, we have a Sphinx now. So let's see what we got here. All right, so you got a Sphinx here that we're going to play from this set. So we got the notepad out. We're going through the spoiler. We're looking at the cards. We're typing down stuff that we have. You're typing down stuff that's going to leave in rotation. And then you look at this big pool of cards that you have. And, I get joked and kind of teased about being an Esper-only guy. But that's just mainly because the way Wizards has built control deck or sets these days is that they're just heavy, weighted in blue, white, and black. Yeah. I was definitely a big blue-black control player before this, and before that I played strictly blue-white. I always was an advocate against a third color because the consistency of a two-color deck, if all the tools are there, it just outweighs the randomness that a third color adds. For example, when you had Doomblade, as we joked about, you had the removal spell, you had the Planeswalkers and Jace, you had Grave Titan, you had all these powerful cards, and you really didn't need white or any other color to win. So it was just an easy thing to do. And then we lose a lot of these cards, like Doomblade and whatnot. And once those cards are gone, you have to start looking to other colors for help. And then you have to look for, removal spells from the other spectrum. So, and you see this a lot too, even in Modern, because in Modern, there's just I was toying with the blue-black control deck. If you look at the blue-black list, there aren't a whole lot of great removal spells in blue-black, and that's why everyone's playing Lightning Bolt and Grixis. Yeah. And, you look at, or they're playing Path to Exile. So you're either playing Lightning Bolt or Path to Exile, and you'll rarely see a deck that isn't playing 4 bolts or 4 Path to Exile. It's just because you got to follow the removal. So when you're building a control deck, you follow the removal, you follow the counter magic, and you just build around that, and then you should be able to, be successful. One of the big things about this standard is that we have lots of different ways you can attack it. You can have the Planeswalker strategy, which I have. So if you're building a control deck, you just look at what Planeswalkers you really like. Cuneo hates my version, but then he plays 2 Narset in his deck. I play 1 Narset. He has his strategy, I have mine. But we're all playing pretty much the same core cards, like Jace, Bryn's Prodigy. You have a staple. You play 4 of those. You play Ojutai's Command. So you start building a deck around these staples, and that's how you kind of really get into control. I feel like a lot of people will just pick up my deck or pick up a control player's deck and then just try to jam it, and then they'll lose and they'll get frustrated, and a lot of times that'll be the end of people's control voyage there. And the best way to avoid that for your listeners is to really make it your own. If you really like Silumgar's Command, play Silumgar's Command. It's not; these cards aren't bad. They're not unplayable. I think they're a little bit less efficient than the cards I play, but I have no qualms with you playing that and playing 1 Dragonlord Silumgar in there to speed your games up. Or there's just so much. You can just edit it pretty easily and make it your own. And if you do that, you'll play better. You'll understand why the cards are in there instead of just picking up this deck with like one Ruinous Path, one Silk Wrap in the board. You're like, what do I board Silk Wrap in against? It just gets really confusing. And I think that people really need to customize their control deck, especially if you're playing at a local game store or starting it for the first time.
Right, and that was going to lead me to a question, was that when you build your decks, like the one I'm looking at your last article, your Esper control list, do you build those with bigger events like Grand Prix, Invitationals, things like that in mind?
Absolutely, and that's a huge. I'm glad you asked, because if you're playing this at a local game store, you don't want to take my deck and just run it card for card, because your metagame's going to be different.
Right.
My F&M metagame, and I still play F&M every week I can if I'm in town. When I go, it's just 4 mono green Eldrazi decks there, or versions of it. So
Yeah.
you can't just play. I switched to Duress, and the reason why I played Despise at the beginning, and I even have to catch myself, is because there's so much green Eldrazi, and you don't have Despise in your deck, you actually can't beat that deck game one. You have to be able to take out Ulamog from their hand, or Ugin, and have that option.
Yeah.
Which Duress doesn't let you do, and Despise does. So yeah, you're gonna have to, with that in mind, change a card here and there, and add cards that are just really good for the 15, 20, 30 people, depending how big your F&M is. Make sure you have cards in there to beat it. The beauty about control is you can build your control deck to beat the pants off anybody in your area if you really want. It's very customizable, and you can definitely gear the hate toward 1 or 2 archetypes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as I've been kind of playing at F&Ms locally for the past few years now, you do run across a lot of people that they're the anti-blue people, the guys that quote-unquote hate control, most of the time because they lose to it a lot. Yeah. What would you say to people like that who, especially like newer players, kind of get like that a lot too, when they're just starting out and they go up against control, they can't do anything, all their stuff gets killed, and they get really frustrated. What kind of advice would you give to somebody like that as far as ways to attack control?
Well, first, you got to try the conversion before you try to accommodate, You never just tell them how to beat it. First you try to explain to them why blue is better. And
right.
try to bring them to your side. You try to reason with them. You try to explain that. I give them I draw, sometimes I illustrate the decision tree. And when I show the decision tree for aggressive decks, and when I show the amount of thought you put into actual playing Magic with aggressive decks, I show them that, even if you don't play control forever, if you go for a few months of playing it, borrowing someone's deck and doing it, you just become better at the game. I played Blue-Red Delver at the last Invitational. And
which kind of blew my mind, by the way. That just does not seem like the style of deck you would ever play.
Oh no, a lot of people's heads exploded, and I mean, it was a creation of my own, which is a prerequisite. Delver just doesn't exist in Modern, and especially in that form. Yeah. And I still will never play anyone's deck. It has to be mine. But I decided to play a deck that was kind of from a kickback to my Mono Blue Wizards days. I played with Tower End and Rune Chanter's Pike and all that. It was basically the same deck. It was just a bunch of blue cantrips, very little red in the deck, just Young Pyromancer, Bolt, Electrolyze. So the red was very low. It was mainly to create make a stand for why Blood Moon should be banned. So if anyone's listening, I'd encourage you to watch the deck tech there to jump into the conversation, especially if you're a local Modern player or casual Modern player. There's no way you like Blood Moon or think it's good for the format. And I kind of go into all my every point of why it needs to go and why it's not healthy. That's a whole other topic, though. We'll save that for a whole 2-hour block or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But to the original question, once you try your spiel on them and they are resistant and reluctant to join the control side, then you can give them the tricks of the trade. It used to be a time in Magic where if you're an aggressive player, there's a skill in holding back resources, and that's because the sweepers were so good. They were 4 mana. The removal spells were also good, and you really had to play a very skillful game in playing a threat, holding back threats, and knowing when to do both those things. That time is dead. The control cards are weaker, and now you'll be hard pressed to find people holding back threats. People just spew their hand, and then you just pray they don't have it. And that's kind of the world we live in now. If you're playing Mono Red, it's not like you can not play your Dragon Fodder on turn 2, and then your Hordling Outburst on 3, and then hold this back to play around language. It just doesn't work like it used to.
Yeah.
So you can tell them just to kind of, they'll win a lot more if they just go for it than holding back. And I don't know why I'm telling you this, because I prefer less people to know that, I want them to continue to hold stuff back. But, just this is the world we live in, where, people are not playing 4 Wrath of Gods. They're playing 3 languish, 2 languish, 1 languish, removal spells, spot removal spells, and it's definitely the time to abuse people that are not capping out their sweepers there. So that's the biggest tip.
So you kind of mentioned too that they're getting away from the harder control. How do you feel the way control's been going over the last, I'd say, year and a half, 2 years? The way they've really been kind of pulling back. Like you said, we don't have our 4-mana wraths anymore, or they're more conditional wraths. The removal's gotten a lot tougher. We don't have the Days of Doomblade anymore. Now it's Ruinous Path. How do you feel? I'm sure you probably don't like it, but I mean, do you think it's better for the game, especially when you're thinking in the sense of newer players or probably the people that are playing more standard than anyone else?
I think it's worse for the game as a whole to eliminate any of the archetypes. So as long as control has some way out, some avenue of success, I think weakening it here and there is not going to be detrimental to the game. Mm-hmm. They've gotten pretty close a few times. I mean, in the last format, when Elspeth was around, I was playing Esper. This is before Dragons. This was right before Dragons. This is when Cons came out. Yeah. I got second at Open, and I lost to Harlan in the finals with a Planeswalker control deck with a bunch of temples in it. That was just a freak success spike of second place there. Yeah. And then I did not have success for the rest of my season there. I feel like in that season, control was gone, and when that happened, it was just a completely mid-range dominant format with 7 out of 8 top 8 being Abzan decks. Yeah. So you have to have control present to keep the mid-range decks in check, and then the mid-range decks keep the aggro decks in check. So you need this balance, and as long as they don't abuse the control players too bad by removing all ways to win, as long as they give us Dragonlord Ojutai, give us Ojutai's command itself, give us Jace's Prodigy, give us cards that are powerful, then I think it's fine for them to tone it back. Because, of course, new players don't like playing against control. That's obvious. Yeah. I don't know why new players enjoy dying on turn 4 from a Tarka Red, but I guess they're like, oh, cool, yeah, that was great. I mean, I don't think that's great. But, I understand it. I really wish I can take, like Matrix, take the pill and forget everything I know and just go back to a world where I was playing Mono Green Stompy back in 2000, 2001. I mean, that was a fun time. But, I think everybody, even at your local game store, will probably one day want to play in an Open or Grand Prix or something like that. So they have to know how to beat control. They have to understand and love not just blue, but red and green and black and white, and just know that, the importance of all the colors and the importance of having a healthy metagame.
Sure. Sure.
Funny enough, Sheen, when I came back to the game, I just got wrecked by control decks. I played mid-range decks because they were kind of linear. I didn't know all the cards. I didn't know all the interactions, so and I didn't want to just play mono red because that's kind of just not my style. So I played mid-range, and I would just get wrecked by control week after week, and I hated the deck. I hated control players. I couldn't stand them. So, like, one day I went and yanked a deck list offline of a control deck, having never really played it. I played a lot of control back. I started playing back in, Revised, Unlimited. So, I played prison decks back then. Basically any deck that I could play back then that sucked all the fun out from my opponent and gave it to me was the deck I played. and I felt that I was on the receiving end of that, so I went, grabbed a deck offline, kind of tweaked it a little bit for what I had seen being playing against, and sat down and played an island. And it was funny. It was all of a sudden that feeling of playing a prison deck came back. I was like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing. This is why I wasn't having fun in the game. But basically, it took me getting smacked around by it to convert.
It's just. I think it's just that's the thing. It's just people don't know until they play it, and it's just not fun to play against. Sure, But the big reason why I play Control, I know, and the viewers need to know, and the world needs to know, and it's just very important, is you want to have the ability to win with limited resources, with perfect resources, and with overloaded resources. You can win on 3 or 4 mana eventually, by eventually hitting the 4th land and getting there and doing interactive things before that. You win in the mid-range game by playing 4 mana planeswalkers or countering things, removing all that. But the rarity, the thing that puts you over the edge, is that when you draw land number 12, you're not upset.
Yeah.
You dig through time. You Sphinx's Revelation. You Dragonlord's Prerogative. It doesn't matter what you do, but it gives you a whole nother chunk of the wheel to win in, where the other decks are dead. The mid-range deck is dead. The aggro deck is dead. The combo deck is dead. And when you're playing the control deck and you're flooded, as long as you're able to toe to toe up until that point, you have the power to win at all avenues of the game, and that's what I like. I don't like the fact that I was playing my blue-red Delver deck at the Invitational in the 16th round, and then not drawing the right cards and just dying with 5 land in the full grip. That is just something that, out of my 20 years of playing Magic, that was probably the most painful loss, to have 8 cards in my hand and lose. I couldn't I didn't understand. I mean, I knew why it happened. Yeah. But I just looked down at my Young Pyromancer, looked at all these reactive spells. I'm like, God, why am I not playing Lingering Souls? why am I not just killing? And they messed my record up. They said that Shaheen was 701 in Standard, and he should have played Esper. No, I was actually 6 and 1 in Modern, playing in the last round. So I was 6 and 1 in Modern. I was 5-2 and 1 in Standard. So the Modern deck played very well, and it was powerful, and it was great, and it was aggressive, but then I died in the same way. And then when I played against Infect, the same thing happened, where I drew too many lands and then just died. And it's just, I would love to have, instead of being 60% to win with a perfect mid-range and early game, I'd rather be 40% and then have a lock in the late game. It's just an aspect of Control that when new players actually play it for the first time, they're going to go, wow, you'll hear this all the time. When new players play, they're always mana screwed or mana flooded. It's never they never lose because of your opponent's cards, and that's fine. Everyone goes through that phase. Everyone goes through the phase of they lost because they drew too many lands or didn't draw enough lands or whatever. So once you play Control, it kind of it really opens your eyes, and you can't really be super casual and play Control, even if you are just playing your local game store. When you play enough Control games against all these different decks, the games go so long, they have so many decisions that you really feel powerful, and you really feel like you have all the decisions to be made in your hands, and it's definitely a big drive for people to play it. So once Robert came back to Control, I'm sure it's going to be tough for you to go back to an aggressive strategy or something like that.
I'm playing like Jeskai Black Control right now, and it's difficult for me. Like, I like the deck, I think it does some good things, but there's just days where I'm like, this really isn't kind of a Control. I mean, it is a Control deck. It kills everything, but I don't know. It doesn't feel right. you know, like I feel something feels off. So it is what it is. Sheen, so how about 4 Control players? And you don't have to give you can teach and have taught whole classes on this, but at like a basic level, if you're a Control player, what are like some of the key takeaways that you need to have to become better at it? You know what I mean? Just
patience would be the biggest one. Actually, hold on. I got it right here. I have the curriculum guide class I taught. It's right over here in this Magic teaching folder. All right, one sec. Curriculum, MTG curriculum. All right, there are 10. When I taught this class, and the reason why I stopped is because of career and traveling and all that. It was just too much. There was a 3-week span where I would get off from work, splash some water in my face after teaching, and then sit at the computer for 3 2-hour blocks in a row, then go to bed, and it was just too much.
Wow.
Yeah, so the money was good. It wasn't cheap. People were willing to pay. I was charging $20 an hour for it. So the people. I was making a killing. It felt good.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that money's all gone now, but it was fun at the time. It was definitely feeling like it gives you a sense of self-worth when you can help people. They're helping you. You're making income from it, and it's definitely selling a product that I love to do. Yeah. But these are the 10 things we went over. I'll just fly through.
Okay.
So they're essential skills. Basically, there's 10 skills that you have to master in order to be an effective control player. And if you want, I can put these in the chat too. Let me put them in the chat.
That'd be
The
awesome.
way you guys can reference it.
We'll put them in the show notes.
Sweet. Let me figure out how to do this because you know. Here we go. All right. So the first one is I'll be able to effectively analyze hand strength, sequence play, early plays, and make correct mulligan decisions. So it kind of goes in chronological order. The first thing you have to do is look at your hand and be able to understand what you're going to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You know, you got to sequence your early plays, especially in this format where you have mana situations. You have to be able to understand what order of lands to be played and what you're going to do with those. And the hardest part is planning on spells to be drawn, not in your hand, and that's something that people really mess up with early on with control decks. You can't fetch with what's in front of your face. You got to fetch with what's going to be the future. So if you have a double black spell in your hand, and you want to be able to cast these two, a double black spell and a single black spell, so you fetch a third black source, and then you draw Gideon, which is double white. You know, you missed up there, and you really have to understand your deck and know what to do. The analyzing hand strength part is much easier now. I mulligan all the time. I used to never mulligan. I used to be as bad as, you know, the worst out there when it comes to mulliganing, and I'll just keep no matter what. I hate mulliganing, mainly because of clunky cards like Dig Through Time that fill your opening hand up, and you just can't really escape it. I mulligan without even thinking now. I mean, you get a scry, which is benefits. People thought at first, and I thought at first, that it would benefit the aggro player with less land. And it actually doesn't. It's not the case. It actually benefits the control player because you have to hit your land drops. And you're mulliganing when you're at 6. The only way you go to 5 is you don't have land. So basically 6 with the 1 land and a Jace now turns into a hand that you really could win with, rather than going to 5 and just basically conceding. So it's really helped.
So would you keep a hand like that? Just like 1 land, a Jace, and your scry?
Depending on the other cards in the hand, probably. 5 cards is something that is just very, very difficult to win on with the deck I'm playing right now. Of course, it depends on the rest of the hand. If you're on the draw, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
If you're on the play, probably not. The other cards would have to be pretty good.
Okay.
But, you know, it's definitely on the draw. Basically, if you're on the draw, that gives you a 3-shot window to hit a second land. And if you're not drawing a second land in 3 turns, you're dead anyway. I mean,
right.
That's just that game's already been decided.
Okay, yeah, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there.
Oh, no, you're fine. All right, so 2, I'll be able to effectively sequence land drops and construct the best optimal early to end game mana for multiple spell usage. Just a big one. You have to be able to cast multiple spells in a turn. The third one is delegate your limited removal and counter magic to my opponent's spells effectively. So you have to be able to take damage when you can, kill the most threatening creatures. A lot of people will just spew removal at the first target, counter the first target. You really just can't do that with a control deck. But you know, don't be the hero either. Don't just let things resolve to show how awesome you are and how how disciplined you are holding your spells.
Yeah.
But definitely, like if you have a ultimate, or if you have an utter end and you have a scatter and they cast a creature, you don't scour the ultimate end or utter end, excuse me, and then save your counterspell because counterspells are just better. So you just have to delegate your removal and then be able to cast multiple spells in a turn is huge with that too. Yeah. Being able to go removal spell with this is something when I was in my classes, the students were the worst at, and the one we worked on the most is being able to counter delve with going removal spell, fetch for the exact 6 card, tap your last 2 mana, Dig Through Time. So those are the big plays that you have to anticipate. All right, for decisively follow specific lines of play based on the matchup. 4 or 5, and when you're going down this list, and you guys can look at when you post on the show notes, these are all about just playing well, following specific lines of play based on one matchup or another. Being able to adapt and alter lines of those play based on the actions of your opponent. Don't play solitaire, which a lot of people get to in Magic. You can care less what your opponent's doing. A lot of new players do this, and they fall into this where they're just staring at their spells and not really seeing what their opponent's doing and just saying, just locking in their plays too far in advance, and you can't do that. You got to be able to be adapting. Predicting plays, this is the number 6, probably the best. The thing I do best is predicting my opponent's plays and interactions with my spells. So I'll, give them the old stink eye, figure out what they're doing, look through the board, count the cards in the hand, determine what the worst possible scenario is for me, research my mental log of the deck they're playing, because everyone plays net decks. No one's ever original ever again for the rest of their lives. And just be able to play well in that. Back in the day, this used to be super difficult because people would just play good cards and spread out. Nobody plays original decks. I remember a time where playing a net deck was blasphemy and taboo, and you were just the scum of the earth if you did that. And now it's just not the case. Now it's just you're a doofus if you don't play a net deck. People are like, "What's wrong with you? Like,
Right.
why are you playing these terrible cards?" And people will joke with me all the time, like the Matt Costas and others, and they've said, your name comes up all the time, Shaheen. That what would you do in this world? How would you be if you played real decks? What would your legacy have been, or how much more you would win if you played real decks? Brad Nelson always hammers this idea into me.
Yeah.
And then I responded the same way. I'm like, well, no one knew who I was. I would be just a guy who won with Call Blade back in the day. One time, a top 8 Grand Prix, maybe. Got second at Nationals instead of lost in the top 8 with my crazy Teferi Cloud Thresher ramp blue deck that I was playing. So I chose a line and a path to have Magic success on my own terms, rather than just be known for my play. I'd rather be known for my art.
Oh yeah, man. I totally respect that.
Yeah, and people do now. It's coming back a little bit, but with the internet, with Magic Online, it's just more accepted now to play card for card. And I suggest to anyone out there, when you pick up a deck, don't just think the pros know best and then play card for card. Really play it, and then honestly, even if you think you're worse than that player, you're not that much worse where you can't make a decision or two and improve it yourself. So,
yeah.
All right. Where was it? 7.
Yeah, 7.
Utilizing life total as a primary source and winning games doing so. Winning at 1 and 15 is the same thing. It's an important one. Taking damage when you can. That's something that players don't do. They'll go, Murder's cut your guy. And then they go, Siege Rhino, and you had Scatter open, you can't cast it. You really have to just take damage and then play a reactive game and then do it in a turn. That's a control skill that dates back to the beginning of Magic and time. So, 8 is probably the one that applies to everybody. I'll be able to limit the amount small, and I put small in quotes. Play mistakes that lead to game losses. There are no small mistakes. Mistakes are mistakes, and they add up. Just because a mistake causes you to lose the game on the spot, or it's insignificant, that insignificant mistake will come back, and you'll repeat it, and then it will cause a loss eventually. I fetched the wrong land. So no big deal. Whatever. I didn't do anything. 5 games later, you do it again, you lose.
Yeah.
So never take for granted. Make sure to catch yourself. I suggest writing them down to create a pattern, and then see where you need to improve.
Yep.
And that when I was teaching the class, I'd watch my student play the matches, and I would write down notes, and I would not tell them, and then afterward we'd have a little recap.
Nice.
So 9, recall mistakes during the matches. That was what I was just mentioning. Understand the correct line of play and prevent recurrence of the mistake. 9 is just improving Magic play. Remembering what you did wrong, understanding what the right play was, and preventing recurrence. A big one about number 9 is I would just delete Mana Screw, Mana Flood out of reasons for losing.
Yeah.
It happens. I feel like over the weekend I was Mana Screwed, flooded a few times, but that's not the reason why my tournament ended. It's the reason why you'll lose here and there. But if you're playing an 18 land Delver deck and you get Mana Screwed, that is your fault. And you are playing a high risk, high reward deck, where I'm playing a 27 lane control deck, and it's just much less frequent. So you have to weigh that in when you play the deck of choice. You're playing mono red, you got Mana Screwed. You poor thing,
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the first pieces of advice we gave in one of our first episodes of this show was don't make excuses and don't hang your hat on excuses.
Yeah,
kind of own it up, make notes of your mistakes, and learn from them.
You know I think what we said before on here, I've at least told people in person, is 95% of losses in this game are because of you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so the
It's a high
game
number.
the game has the game has variance. That's why it's not a sure thing. But 95% of your losses can be traced back to something you probably did.
Yep. And understanding what you did wrong and then preventing reoccurrence is one of the big things we focused on. And a lot of these guys, and I've been really busy, and the people wanted to have more lessons, and people have been, the customers I had wanted to come back and test what they've done and all this, and I wish I could, but it's definitely helped a lot of people. And I think even just posting these in your game notes and spreading the word that these are just 10 things, not just for control players, but just for Magic in general. This will help you, even without me teaching it. You can just look at these and be like, yeah, I need to work on number 5, or I need to really do number 2. And,
So my question is, when is your book coming out?
yeah, I actually wanted to. That was the original plan, was to. I had a website. I got ShaheenSoorani.com. I was going to create video tutorials with it was going to be free at the beginning, and just have donations, and just have how to draft, how to build a deck, how to play standard, how to play modern, how to blah 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 blah. It's just unrealistic with the career I have right now at the time. But if I was unemployed, it would definitely be a sweet little Kickstarter program to get basically magic lessons for the world there. But
yeah, man, sounds like a great idea.
So out of these essential skills, Shaheen, which one do you have to work on the most still?
Ooh, good question.
Never criticize myself often.
You can tell us offline if you want.
Oh no! I'm actually. Let me look through here real quick. I hoped that. I don't know if I don't want to say that I have these down, because I don't. But I don't know which one I actually am weak with. Number 10, the last one, which I just never did mention, is probably the most important, I think, in Magic, and it's the one that a lot of people sweep under the rug, and it's something that I wasn't great with at the beginning. And my loss on camera kind of shows that number 10 for me is finally got to the point where I like it. And it basically says I'll be able to play a full match of Magic the Gathering with a high level of sportsmanship and eliminate the use of excuses for a loss. I offer the hand. I say good game. I don't care how bad I lost. I don't care what the circumstances were. I've had opponents that were just super mean to me, and after the match is over, I extend my hand, and I wish them the best of luck. And it just basically comes to the point where you need to be the better person, and if you're like this, great things will happen to you in the game. And this will be brief, but I had an opponent at this tournament who was playing a Tarka Red, and he had his nose in my deck while he was shuffling. How close he was looking at it. I mean, it was bad. So I stop him and I say, hey man, I'm gonna need you to not look down at the deck when you shuffle. So basically, if he had a webcam right now, I'd imitate what he did after that. But he basically gave me this death stink stare for the rest of the match, picking up my deck, looking into my eyes, like almost, it looked like he's about to growl at me. I mean, this is what the rest of the match kind of did. And toward the end of the match, he, after I didn't, I basically say, everything okay, man, we're good. And then he basically apologized, said, he didn't mean anything by it. He just got offended. He thought I was calling him a cheater and all this. And then the misunderstanding was done, and then everything was great. So that could have been if it was someone else who isn't really, who doesn't really have a great level of sportsmanship yet, and there's someone at every local game store that does not take losing well. You need to explain to them that you're going to play 40,000 matches of Magic, and if you are letting it get to you, especially at the F&M level or the IQ level or something like that, then you're going to live a very short life, and Magic's not going to be fun for you, and you're going to have a heart attack, and it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And I basically I lost that winning in for Invitational Top 8 number 6 and thousands and maybe a chance at the Players Championship and all this stuff. And you get up, you shake your hand, you move. So number 10 is huge, and I think that's something that I had to work on for a while.
Sure.
I used to be a hothead when I would lose, and this is years and years and years ago. But here's what good sportsmanship has done for me. And this is just, from off the top of my head. I've had 3 people scoop me into invitational top 8s and open top 8s.
Nice.
Where they don't do it for anyone else these days. People are just playing it out. We had a guy that was 14-1 in the tournament. He was bashing people's skulls in and knocking people out. I had Thea Steele scoop me in, and when Josh Ravitz, her boyfriend, was live for top 8 with someone losing.
Yeah.
I had Anthony Easton scoop me in when the play draw rule was just introduced, and he gave up playing first just to let me in. Dylan Donegan at the last Open in DC scooped me into the top 8. Eric Smith scooped to me when we ran at the time and he wasn't that behind, and it just goes on and on and on, and just because you treat people right and you play Magic with a certain level of prestige and sportsmanship, it'll really pay off in the end. So that's something I would give away with.
Yeah, that's awesome, and good on all those guys. That's really incredible, and yeah, it's like you said, as long as you can look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day every day and know you did the right thing every time, it's it'll come back.
Oh yeah, everything comes around. And I know people that are the opposite, and it's funny once it gets to the point where I'm not gonna put any names out there, but there are a few people, high level people in the Star City circuit that ask for concessions, and their opponent looks them in the eye and they're like, no. Absolutely not. And everybody will respond to this gentleman or this guy or these guys the same way. And it's because, and they'll tell me after, they'll say, I'm not going to do it because he doesn't do it for anyone else. And he's rude about it. And, it's everything has rewards. I'm not a big karma guy, but in Magic it's not karma, it's a science. You're nice to people will be nice to you.
It's funny, Shaheen. Just real quick aside. I mean, I played in an IQ last week or this past week, and my round 1 opponent, we went to time, and he was not really a nice guy to play against. He just wasn't. We're both playing the control mirror, and it was tough. And it's a game. It requires a lot of mental acuity, but he was not very fun to play against. Just his attitude. So at the end of it, he was ahead. I'll give him that. He was ahead on the board. I don't know that he had the game locked up. There were certainly things left in my deck. I could have top decked a draw spell, anything. And he goes, any chance you would just concede? And I went, nah, man, not this early on. I'm not going to concede. I'm sorry. Yep. So we draw. And for the entire rest of the IQ, you can hear him talking to his friends. Yeah, I got to, hopefully my breaker doesn't kill me. I had to draw. He's just complaining to his friends. He's doing it while I'm like 2 seats down from him. He knows I can hear him. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, okay, dude. He never pointed me out and was like, that guy made me draw. He's like, my first round opponent made me draw. Blah blah blah. So I get to a win and in for top 8, and we go to time. This time we're not playing the control mirror. It just goes to time, and the guy. It's game 3, and you know what? I'm gonna be honest. The guy didn't have the board locked up, but because of my record, there was a lot of funny math that would have had to have happened for me to draw and make top 8, whereas this guy, as long as he won, he was in. Yeah. And we get to time, and he goes, I guess we're drawing. I said, nah, I scooped. That's cool, man. And this guy was furious. He was 2 seats down. He's like, you'll scoop for him? I'm like, yeah, man, he was cool to play against. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's like
he followed number 10. He followed the 10th commandment.
He was a good guy. He was a good opponent to play against. We had fun. It was a good time. I mean, we were both competing against each other. We were looking to bash each other's face in to make top 8. But you know what? At the end of the day, he was a good guy to play against. And so you do it.
All right. So I'm sorry. We're running a little long, so I want to go ahead and move to our actual little Q&A session we have for you, Shaheen, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yep. All right, just because we've had you on the line for a while, and I don't want to take up too much more of your evening. So I'll start off to the first, and this is really the most important question that we're going to ask you tonight.
Oh my God!
When are you going to go see The Force Awakens?
Not on release night.
Oh, you're killing me, man.
No, man, I can't. It's just I can't. It's going to be out. Is it midnight on Thursday, or is it going to be
midnight?
Well, they've got showings starting around 7 p.m. on Thursday. At least out here in Jersey.
They don't have. I don't think. Let me see. Actually, I don't think they have any here on Thursday. I'm probably gonna go watch this weekend, Friday during the early afternoon or before F&M at some point. But definitely early on. Definitely not on the release, because the release here gets wild. I'm sure it gets wild there too. And I can't be out. I'm an old man. Got to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Just can't be out that late. But yeah, I mean, I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I love all fantasy. I love Game of Thrones. Yeah, I'm the typical. All my interests fall in that little shard there.
Nice.
Oh, for sure.
You're in good company, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you and you may have answered some of this before, so this will probably be a quick one. But in standard, will you always play control in standard? Can you ever envision a standard where you would say, you know what, I'm gonna hang it up, not permanently, but and if so, why?
Yes, I would hang it up temporarily, and the only time the only way the setting would be right for that is if you go back circa Blue Black Fairies. Back in the day, made Control unplayable before the printing of Volcanic Fallout and Cloud Thresher and all that stuff, or excuse me, Fallout. They hate stuff. Grey Sable Stag and the core set. So before that, I played Control. Couldn't win a match. Just died. Once Control becomes unwinnable, when I'm sitting across, basically the most powerful deck, and I'm just getting my clock cleaned. I mean, I'll fight when I'm 35%, 40%, and just hope my knowledge and skill can carry me the rest of the way. But when it's 10, 15%, or even lower, I'll switch. And what I do switch to is a ramp deck. I switched to ramp. I won a PTQ playing a ramp strategy with everything but blue in it. I had Broodmade Dragons and Johnnies and all the sweet cards. Yeah, it was a cool deck. And
Nice.
I played ramp at nationals too. So ramp is a definite like cop out for me when Control was not working. But I think the design back then was bad. I just think R&D messed up then, and I just haven't seen evidence that we're going in a direction where they're going to mess up, that bad. So I don't see it happening. Is it impossible? No, it's definitely possible. It's happened before, but never aggro. Never aggro.
All right.
Cool. All right. My question for you is, what are thoughts on the new standard rotation? So the whole 2 sets, then rotate out, 2 sets, then rotate out.
I like it from a competitive standpoint. I hate it for my casual friends. I think it's a plot employed by Wizards to make more money.
Of course.
I don't think it has anything to do with making the game better. I think it's weak standards do not diminish finite magics. I think people still play FNM regardless. I think people play casual Magic regardless. I don't think waiting to print new sets is going to help anything. But I do think it's going to increase their revenue. And I guess the only benefit we can take from that is with increased revenue, maybe they will trickle some of that down to us in form of better Grand Prix prize payouts or some other additional tournament, maybe bring back a Nationals or a Worlds for everybody. I mean, something else with this. But at this point, I like it because I like formats that are ever changing. Every win I've ever had, barring like a handful, has been from a fresh new format where I'm like, you know what? Oh, Cylinder Scorn. I'm gonna build a deck with this, and basically my deck becomes the deck that half the Pro Tour is playing.
Yeah.
Which which makes me feel, even though I didn't play on that Pro Tour, but it makes me feel very warm and fuzzy inside that they would take my list and then adapt it from Channel Fireball guys, or even at least use it as a skeleton, which is pretty cool. So I love new formats. I love to brew. And it's basically the only time I play a different deck, because I don't know how people can switch decks all the time in the competitive realm, because no matter what cards come out, what deck's popular, Control doesn't really lose a huge chunk of its win percentage. Abzan's popular, now Jeskai Black. Oh no, we can't play Esper anymore. It just doesn't work like that. So, the only time I get to play a new deck is when a new format comes out and forces me to. So,
All right, fair enough. My next question is, it actually comes from a couple of local guys, Ed Morgan and Bernard Liberati. They had this long discussion about variants, and they actually wanted me to ask you about this because they seem to be puzzled, or they seem to believe that pro level players like yourself and the guys that we see in top 8 at Grand Prix and Star City Opens rarely ever get bit by the variance bug, be it mana flooding or their opponent just getting the nut draw both games kind of thing. And they basically want to know why it seems like you guys at the top tables never seem to get bitten by variance.
That's pretty easy actually, and I don't know if it applies to the gentleman asking the questions, but people at a more casual format or casual level simply don't mulligan. They just never do, and they're just like, I didn't draw my second land, then they die, or I didn't draw my third land. These guys on camera, these big level pros, PBDR especially, people that I know personally, they mull to 5 all the time, mull to 6, and they win on these mull to 6 and 5s. And more often than not, the casual player will keep the 2 land with three mana spells, and most of the time you'll get there.
Right.
A lot, but when you don't play Magic, and you just die. These players avoid the variance by shipping those dangerous hands that could result in a non-game of Magic in return for one less card and having a chance to show off their play skill and win. So the big thing, especially for casual players, if you want to avoid the variance bug more, is to mulligan questionable hands. And also, basically is number 9 on our list is recalling your mistakes and figuring out where you went wrong. I've seen pros win on Mana Screw. I've seen pros win on Mana Flood. And there's just a reason for it. And basically, you have to play really tight, much harder, much more ferocious, and better when you're mana screwed or mana flooded to win. It's easy to win when everything's going your way.
Yeah.
It's the true testament of skill if you can win when you are just easily behind, or one way or another.
Nice. Okay, sounds good.
So Sheen, so in standard right now, what's your favorite card?
I would have to say Dig Through Time by a mile. I don't think there's no card that comes close to that for me.
By 7 cards and taking 2 of them?
At least, maybe even more than that. It's just the card is just ridiculously powerful. We create a void in Modern and Legacy. After I went on a couple more crusades of bannings, and I'm definitely not taking credit for anything getting banned, but I'd like to think that me, along with other writers, can help fan the flames and get people riled up enough to get rid of cards that are abusive.
I wonder what card he's talking about.
We're
getting there. That question's coming. Don't worry.
So then, what is your favorite card of all time? But I already know the answer. It's Blood Moon, so we can move on.
Oh yeah. Goblin God, definitely.
Goblin
really?
God, huh?
Favorite card of all time actually is a red card.
Really?
Yeah, it's my casual little fan card. Do you guys know who Ely Cassis is?
I don't think so.
He's a New York player. He's very good. I think he's top 8 at Grand Prix. He's not actually that. He doesn't really go to all the tournaments, but if you're an East Coast guy and go to the Grand Prix, he's there. But anyway, so him and I are pretty close, and we're playing Battle Box, which is like a 1-on-1 cube match. And I have this card in my hand, and I'm like, it's my favorite card of all time. You're never going to guess it. And it's the only rare in the set, or only rare in the box. Everything else is common or uncommon. I'm like, oh man, you better be careful. He's like, it's Hitsugu's second right, isn't it? Like,
oh my god!
I'm like, how do you know? Like,
so wait.
How do you know?
Shaheen, so I got to tell this story.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So Bernard Liberati, we just mentioned him as a local guy. Bernard's kind of my travel buddy when we go to events and stuff. He and I go to a lot of IQs and GPs and all that stuff. And so Jason, Bernard, and I go to GP Pittsburgh, and Bernard plays Grixis Twin, and this is a guy who he's a brewer. He plays a Grixis Twin list. It's kind of stock. He puts his own spin on it. And I'm in the car ride over. Jason and I are like leafing through his deck, and in his sideboard is a Hidesku's second right. And we're like, "What the hell?"
Now I will preface this with the fact that he has always played that card.
Yes, he has always played that card.
Yes,
always. So he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get guys with it." So Bernard proceeds to play games where he immediately. He'll turn 3 Exarchs, or not turn 3. He'll cast an Deceiver Exarch and force them at 11 to tap their fetch land. And what do? They always fetch. They go to 10, and then on his turn, he ends up second righting some guy, and I'm watching this match. I'm looking over Bernard's shoulder. I see him do it. I know what's coming. The guy who he's playing has his friend over his shoulder. So Bernard proceeds to, at the end of his turn, Deceiver Exarch taps the land, sacks it, goes to 10. Bernard untaps, plays his land, second rights the guy. And the guy, it's game 3, and the guy just like he doesn't know what to say. He like has to read the card. He's like, what? Wait, what? And his friend, you'll love this, goes, dude, he just achievement unlocked you.
Yeah.
This,
Dude, that's like a bucket list thing to do.
oh, the salt was flowing, man. I mean,
Yeah,
it was just...
It's a painful thing to lose to. I mean, I've killed probably a good 100 people with the card in Cube because I play a lot of Cube, and I always first pick it. I'll never pass it. And just, and even though I have it, you just never can get away from me. You can never, you're going to get it. You know you're going to 10, so just don't fight it. I attack them, with my one creature, and then they look up and give me that devastated look. I know exactly what's going to happen. Actually, one time I had 2 mana open against my friend Daryl Ayers, who's a pretty known Legacy Modern guy. And I had 2 mana open, and he's like, oh, I can't lose now. He had a trading post in play. So he goes to 10, and I Dark Ritual second right him.
Ooh,
And
wow.
he's like, I can't, no one can escape it. It's just a great card. It's so fun.
Yep.
I love it. It's definitely a casual card, but it's easily my number 1 favorite pet card. Definitely not my favorite competitive card. But
Yeah, he when he plays locally, like when we're just jamming games of Modern, like anytime I'm at like 11, 12, even sometimes if I'm like 14, you know what I mean? He'll like plays the Exarch, he's like tap your fetch land, and it's like USOB. Like he's like, do I have it? You're like, oh, you son of a. Ugh.
that should shock yourself. You got to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and he said he did it to another guy at GP Pit, and they tried to bolt themselves, and he's like, nah, spell skite it. Like the guy knows what's coming. He's like,
I
spell
used to
skite.
play Grover the Burn Willows with it, so I can bump their
Yeah.
life
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
in case they try to escape.
You and Bernard need to talk.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that's
that's
good.
Anyway,
We got a few more questions for you. So,
yeah, we'll let
Chad,
you
what's
go.
the next one?
Do you have any goals for 2016? And will you be going to any major events in the Northeast?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be going to all the events in the Northeast that I can go to.
Cool.
I'll be going to every Grand Prix that's in the East Coast. Period. The ones outside the East Coast I'll be going to is Houston and Albuquerque randomly. Just decided to fly out to 2, see if I can, perform well if I travel a little bit farther this time around. I'll be going to an RPTQ in Tennessee because it's the same weekend as the Grand Prix I'm going to, so I won't be at that. I think is it Pittsburgh RPTQ or is it a Philly one? I don't know which one it is.
I think
But there's one on the East Coast that I won't be attending just because of that. But I mean, my goal is to casually maybe kind of get back on the Pro Tour. I'll never be able to put the time and effort I used to be able to, where I would drive to a PDQ Saturday, sleep in my car for a couple hours, and drive to the PDQ on Sunday, 6 hours away. I used to do that. We drove dead of winter through snow, and we drove all around the East Coast and Midwest, and just try to make it happen. And for a while, I did. And I think if you really have that drive, you'll be successful. But it's just it's with having the life responsibilities, I just can't put that much energy into it anymore. It'd be nice to get back on the Pro Tour. I think I play well enough to do so. It's just going to boil down to, with the few events that I attend, can I escape the ever looming rust bug that I find myself in by not playing a lot of hand competitive Magic, where I do more of it online. And that's a different animal there. To transfer your practice from online to live, which is no one's reminding you about your triggers there.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So now we'll get to the question. I think with recent events, I think everybody wants to know. So you've been pretty vocal about your dislike of Blood Moon in Modern.
I love
So Are you being 100% serious with this when you go on these rants? Is it a little bit of trolling? I mean, like, what is? I guess what's the deal, man?
Wizards and the DCI have made it clear why they ban cards and why they want certain cards out of formats.
Mhm.
There's criteria that it can fall under one, two, or all. The easiest one to ban a card would be it's too powerful. Everyone's forced to play it or play decks that can beat it. And then you'll see things like artifact lands get banned in Standard, and Skull Clamp, and Jace, and Stoneforge Mystic, and things like that. Things that are clearly too good. Everyone's either playing that deck or the one deck that can beat it.
Right.
When you have to play 4 Viridian Shaman in your main deck in Standard, you know that Affinity is too good, and then it has to go. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about cards that are prevent gameplay. They want interactive gameplay in Magic. Doesn't mean that every match has to be this epic match where you're casting spells and they're casting spells and you're attacking and blocking and all that. In a perfect world, that's what it would be. But Blood Moon is the opposite of that. It prevents all gameplay. It is not a card as printed and intended when it first came out, where you have a standard with all, or modern or standard with all fetch lands and shock lands. The argument that Blood Moon keeps greedy mana bases in check is pretty loose and weak, mainly because shocking yourself with fetching and going down to 17, then 15, then 13, and then 12, whatever, is by far punishment enough when the best decks in Modern are Affinity and Burn and combo decks. Greedy mana bases really aren't in check by Blood Moon. All Blood Moon does is punish fair decks with the combo decks and all decks in between. So an example would be we tested games, and basically with a 6 basic land deck, and everyone probably on this podcast would agree, playing 6 basics in Modern is pretty reasonable, and you're doing your job to be not greedy.
Right.
Agree with that? With
Oh, yeah,
six
sure.
basics?
Yeah.
All right, so we tested that with 6 basics, Colonnades, and Seacrum Coast, and other things, and about 1 out of every 2 games, almost 50%, a little bit less, you have opening hands with a Flood Strand and other lands that are non-basic. You fetch your land, you Serum Visions, you fetch your land, you Mana Leak with a basic. They cast Blood Moon, you die.
Yeah.
You don't draw another fetch land before that. You don't draw any more basics after that. You can't cast any more spells. And Magic should not be a game where they should tap 3 mana and you should die. It's an interactive game, and formats are deemed healthy or unhealthy by the amount of interaction in that format. So that's one of the criteria. It falls also along the lines of playing slow as well. That's why they banned Top. That's another reason why I was on the Top ban train in Legacy and in Modern, which has already got banned right off the bat in Modern.
Yeah.
Is because of time. They banned it Old Extended. If you ever want to look up why they banned Top and Old Extended, is because the activations of Top made things go to time. And they, spend 30 seconds to a minute on every Top. You're going to be drawing, and you are deleting your entry, and you're also affecting your opponent who paid to play in that tournament as well, and you're drawing him out of the tournament as well, him or her. So back to the health of a format. Blood Moon is not a card that, like I said, keeps people in check. It's just a card that basically punishes anyone who runs non-basics at all. And I mean, what's the solution is to run, I guess I should just play Merfolk then. That's the thing you should do. Or play, a combo deck that kills you on turn 2, so you don't need to worry about that. Or Tron. Tron even beats Blood Moon.
Yeah, no,
More often than a control deck beats Blood Moon or a mid-range deck. I played against a poor guy in the Invitational. I mulligan to 5. He plays a Thought Seize on turn 1 or Duress, something like that. Takes something good out of my hand. I'm left with a Spell Snare. He then plays a Goyf. He had 2 Goyfs in his hand, so I didn't do the Spell Snare. So I Spell Snare it. I drew Mana Leak. Cast Mana Leak on the second Goyf he plays. And then on tap, probe him, play Blood Moon, he dies. And he dies with Path, 2 more 2-drops in his hand, a Lingering Souls, and he can just not cast a spell for the rest of the game. He has 5 basics in his deck. He didn't draw a fetch land. He had out a man land and some shock lands. It's just not a card that promotes gameplay that's fair or allows for a healthy metagame. So once it goes, you're going to see things open up. You're going to see a lot more mid-range decks pop up, control decks, fair decks that can now focus on beating the combo decks rather than worrying about dying to an enchantment on turn 3.
It's funny you said about Tron, because I was just having this conversation. I've been playing it a lot recently in Modern, and when I went to Pit, guys would drop Blood Moon, just assuredly, it's getting sided in if they play red,
Yeah.
and it's almost like it was my first competitive event playing the deck, and so I was really concerned about it. But you know what, man? If that's your turn 3 play, particularly if you're on the draw, like I'm actually fine with that. Like, we can get to 6. This is no problem. You know what I mean? Like, if on turn 3 you're playing an enchantment, I can get to 6 lands. You know what shuts down Tron worse is Stony Silence. That's painful. I mean, that's just freaking horrific.
I think Stony Silence is better against it. A Stone Rain sometimes is better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many cards that are better. And honestly, if you look at the Blood Moon matches that I had and that people have, it doesn't beat the decks you think it's going to beat, like Tron. Yeah. Like, even Amulet Bloom, it does beat them pretty bad, but they have 4 Nature's Claim and a lot, or at least the Seal of Primordium, and if they can set that up, then they're good. It's the decks that play reactive spells, the Grixis control decks, the Esper control decks, the mid-range decks, whatever you're playing, Jund, Abzan, those are the decks that have to tap out on these turns and then are just dead. I mean, and there's no way to get around it. You drew your non-basics and the game's over. It's just not a fun card for anyone. I see people play Blood Moon and then they can't cast any more spells. The caster of the Blood Moon can't cast any more spells.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. It's an outdated card from a hate base set that was just full of hate cards because they were necessary at the time. Cards like Boil and Choke and Blood Moon and Snaring Bridge, and these are cards that were needed many moons ago, but don't fit in the new Magic world that we live in, where we have R&D that's just ahead of their game, and we just don't need these cards anymore.
Okay. All right. So I got one last question for you before we start closing things out. Like I said at the start of the show, I've been a huge fan of yours for years now, and I've seen you at a lot of Grand Prix, SCG Opens, like a lot of big events up here in the Northeast, at least a dozen times. And I've always wanted to walk up to you and say hi and just kind of BS a little bit with you, but I was never sure if you're like the type of guy that just doesn't really want to be bothered in between rounds, because sometimes you'll be sitting with your friends, maybe testing a deck out or something between rounds. So I never really know if I'd be bothering you. So what are your thoughts on people coming up to you and basically saying hi during these big events?
I love to be bothered, and it makes me feel good. I guess in the last 2 years, I've been signing a lot of playmats and cards and Narsets and Lingering Souls, and people ask me about their deck and show me their list and all that. It's why I play the game. At this point, I don't see myself spiking too many more wins these days. I see my energy level dropping in these long tournaments, and I actually love commentating. I love teaching. I love going to events. I love signing cards. I love talking to people. So I actually encourage this, and of course, now after you saying that, I hope the next time you'll come up, we'll have a little talk and talk about
for sure.
Talk about how great our podcast went today and all that. I love it, and it's the magic, the slight celebritydom that you get from it, the slight amount of people that look to you and want help with their game because this is the greatest game that is out there. That want to improve their craft, and there's definitely help to be had there from certain personalities. You have Brad, who can help you with standard. You have BBD, who can just help you with just all aspects of the game. If you have a control niche, then I can help you there. If you need some aggro help, you can talk to Tom Ross. There's people out there that are just experts in their field, and a lot of them are approachable. There are some that aren't approachable, and I feel bad for them, and they're really missing a big part of the spoils of the game, where you have people that look up to you or at least want to pick your brain about something, and they're missing out. But I'm definitely in the camp of the guys that enjoy meeting new people and spreading the controlled gospel here.
All right, sounds good. So that's it for the questions, and really at this point we're just going to start closing out. So Shaheen, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and taking this time with us. I know we kind of went over a little bit of time here, but is there anything you want to get out there as far as like contact information, talking about your articles on Star City, anything else you want to get out there for the people to so they know how to follow you and where to contact you?
Yeah, I'm most responsive on Twitter, so if you follow me at Shaheen MTG, that's the big one to follow me at. I'm pretty bad with Facebook messages and other things just because I'm not really on my phone too often. But Twitter, I'm always checking my Twitter feed because I know it's linked to the Magic and professional questions. So Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. And, of course, posting comments at the end of my Star City article is always a good way to get some immediate feedback. Basically, any question you have, just tweet at me, and or come see me in person, and we'll chat. It's why I play. So anyone listening, don't hesitate.
Sweet. And Bob or Chad, you guys got anything else you want to say to Shaheen before we start closing out?
Hey man, thank you very much for doing this, and sorry to have. I know you've been traveling this weekend, so I tried to keep the badgering for getting prepped for this thing to a minimum.
Oh no, it's good. I prefer off the cuff anyway, so get more honest responses that way. So no problem, man. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate being invited on, and anytime, just let me know, and I'll be glad to come back.
Sweet, man.
Sweet, man. Thank you.
Anything, Chad?
Yeah, just another piggyback on you two guys. Thanks for the Intel talk, and hopefully we'll see you in the future.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
All right, so and just real quick, I just want to remind everybody, check out our channel on iTunes. We go up on iTunes every week now, probably a day before we go live on MTG Cast. So if you're not a subscriber on iTunes, please be sure to do that. Just search Higher Standards in iTunes, and you'll see our new icon right there. And just go ahead and hit follow and download us every week. And again, check out my other podcast, Project VCR. We still have our Return of the Jedi episode up, and we talk for 2 hours about that Star Wars movie, and it was a really good time. So go listen to those and follow me on Twitter at Roscom76.
If you guys want to find me, the best way to do that's on MTGO, MacNaughton9, the number 9. I play pretty much all formats, everything from standard all the way up to vintage. So if you want to jam some games, just hit me up, tell me you're a fan of the podcast, and we'll play.
All right. Chad?
Yeah, you guys know where to find me, and keep an eye on Jason's Facebook page because he'll be updating every Star Wars thing ever.
Yeah, forever and ever and ever. As a last note, if you guys are in the area, New Jersey area, South Jersey, or even like New York or around, this weekend is the Gamers Vault, which is Shahina. It's a store partner and myself owned down in southern New Jersey. So it's the Gamers Vault open. So it's our last open for the season. It's this Saturday. It's a $50 entry fee, $40 if you pre-reg, and it's a 3.5K. So there's $3.5K worth, $3,500 worth of prizes. You guys come up, jam some games, and the next day will be our Gamers Vault Invitational. So all of the guys that top 8 at our Open Series over the year will come back and play for the champion for the year.
When is this? This weekend, you said?
Yeah, it's Saturday, man. If you need a place to crash up in Jersey, man, let me know. You're welcome.
So 3.5K, and the top 8 gets to play in an invitational the next day.
The next day.
What's the prize for the next day for invitational?
Let me go back and look. My partner.
You might have messed up. You might have a little caravan coming up there to.
I will get you all the info for the invitational. I need to put it up somewhere, but I will, man. Check I guess Facebook or whatever. And
sounds good to me.
Facebook
Send me that seriously, and I'll definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And with that, all of us will be there. And with that, guys, I just want to thank Shaheen again for coming on. This was awesome, and hope everybody enjoyed the show. And we'll see you all next time. Yep. We'll be back. And recording's off. Cool. Shaheen, if you're still there, again, thanks, man. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
It was so good to talk to you.
Yeah, man, it was fun. I appreciate the following me, and I'm happy that I've been able to have a positive influence At least, even on the Twitter stuff is good. So
Yeah, and I know Bob and I both have played a series of your decks over the years, and yeah, just big fans, and just keep it going as much as you can. I know life happens, so.
Oh yeah. Well, this weekend is Christmas break for me. That's why you piqued my interest.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why we scheduled it this weekend, is because, like, most of our local guys are home, and a lot of people that are like go to college, they're home now, so they can all come and get one last shot. We've done 3 opens this year. We opened in June.
Yeah,
so we did 3 opens.
Standard, right?
Yeah, it's standard. Yeah.
And a lot of the big local guys, like Fabiano before he got his suspension, was coming to the opens, and all of the big local guys that live like in the Jersey, PA area,
yeah, New
have
York,
been coming out.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, what you said, South Jersey?
Yeah, it's you're what, in Old Dominion?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up like 95.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's probably, God, where's Old Dominion in regard to, like...
I'm about 4.5 hours from Baltimore.
You're 4.5, so you're probably 6 hours from us.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean,
Yeah,
if my
it's
friends
maybe
are down for a little travel, then I'll definitely... send me the invitational stuff. That'll be the pitch that I'll use.
Yeah, I will. And listen, if you guys need a place to crash overnight, I can put you guys... I can put you guys up. Just tell me how many it is, like, as long as it's not like 15 people.
No, it'd be like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, yeah. No, you guys definitely have a place to crash if you need it.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
But yeah. So definitely.
All right, man. Well, I'll be checking my messages. Just let me know.
Yeah, and I'll link you on Twitter too when the episode goes live. It'll be up later tonight, so I'll hit you a message on Twitter and just say, hey, Shaheen came with us on this episode.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely retweet it and get it out there. So
sweet, man.
Yeah,
and
we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again, and I will definitely be walking up to you either the next Star
weekend?
City or Grand Prix, or if you're there this weekend.
Don't be shy, man. I love talking to people. That's honestly, I tell my girlfriend this all the time. She doesn't see the allure, and I'm like, are you kidding me? People want to know what I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what that feels like? It's definitely. I mean, I'm a teacher by trade, so. I mean, this is just an extension of my career. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even just doing the podcast, we've got a pretty good following. We've got a couple thousand, like 3,000 to 4,000 listeners every week, and they'll message us and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of the show," and it's a nice little ego boost.
Oh yeah, it feels good. It makes you feel like you're doing something good. Besides, we're playing a game here, but we're doing so much more. So it's good.
Yeah.
So sweet. Well, if you
boys.
guys don't have anything else, I'll close out the call, and just thanks again, man. We'll definitely talk to you soon.
Cool.
Yeah, man. All right, take it easy, guys.
Yep,
You
take
too.
it easy.
All right, guys. Thanks for stopping in. We that was it, and look for it to be posted. If you guys missed anything, Jason's going to post it, and if you guys are not already on the Higher Standards Facebook page, join the Higher Standards Facebook page. That's all I can really say. But thanks. Yeah, we're putting the spoilers up. Hold on.
Call you again and just kind of like close us out. Just wanted to, close everything with Shaheen and then kind of get us back into the call.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem.
Yeah.
Dude, he was awesome, man.
Yeah.
What a
Guys,
nice,
really good.
like, what a totally nice, normal, down to earth. Not that anybody else we've talked to has been nicer down to earth, but like, whereas Dan's kind of a little over the top and Jim's a little standoffish, like he was just like a normal, nice dude that, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's